Back here on CBS Sports HQ, where we've got several key injuries ahead of Sunday's game between the Bucs and Patriots. That game on CBS. Tampa Bay will be without two key pieces on offense once again in Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin Jr. Meanwhile, New England will be down running back Ramondre Stevenson and wide receiver Kayshon Boutte. As you take a look at the full NFL Week 10 injury report, all the injuries that we are monitoring. We see a few questionable. We'll continue to keep you posted on if some of these names: Cedero McMillan, wide receiver for the Panthers; DeAndre Swift dealing with a groin injury for the Bears; Aaron Jones Sr. right now questionable for the Vikings, dealing with a shoulder and toe injury; and Garrett Wilson dealing with that knee injury. If they're good to go, we'll continue to keep you posted here on HQ. But for more on how really all of this impacts your fantasy lineups, let's go ahead and say hello to our own Heath Cummings. Heath, it's great to see you. Key injuries are impacting this Patriots Bucs game on Sunday. Kayshon Boutte, as I mentioned, and Ramondre Stevenson out for the Patriots. The Bucs, coming off the bye week, are going to be without, of course, Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin, as I mentioned. Make sense of this from the Patriots receiver and running back group.
Yeah, I think, listen, a lot of us have been waiting for Travion Henderson to get a chance. He got a chance last week, got the touchdown sniped from him, but still gave you 12 fantasy points, which at this point, with how we view the running back position, we will take it. So he is a top 24 running back, maybe a top 20 guy, will be good on those outside runs and in the passing game. Terrell Jennings will do a little bit of work between the tackles, hopefully not steal another touchdown. I'm not starting Terrell Jennings. I am starting Travion Henderson. In the wide receiver room, it's a little bit trickier because they've just mixed and matched so well this season, which is awesome for Drake May, pretty terrible for us. Stephon Diggs, a high-end wide receiver 3 with top 15 upside just about every week. If you have to start another Patriots wide receiver, I don't really want to, but Demario Douglas is an interesting flex. And then Hunter Henry has kind of been up and down and more down than up lately, but he's a borderline top 12 tight end, somebody you could consider in a pinch.
All right, now let's pivot here to the Buccaneers side of things. Without two of their key pieces, you got Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin both out.
So this has been more of a reality for the Buccaneers lately. We were really hopeful that coming off their bye week, we would get Irving and Godwin back. We did not. So it's kind of just back to the way we were operating before. Now, the one thing we don't know, Rachaad White kind of dominated this backfield without Bucky Irving for the majority of the time that Irving's been out. But late in their most recent game, we did see them kind of turn towards Sean Tucker in the running game. And that's because they've just had a really hard time running the ball efficiently. Well, guess what? They're playing a Patriots defense that has not allowed 50 rushing yards to a running back all season long. Not a good matchup. We expect kind of a committee approach. So Rachaad White is still a top 24 running back just because of how bad running back is right now. I would certainly rather start Travion Henderson over White. You see a couple of the guys on this list, Kamani Vidal, I think I'd rather start him over him. Well, if Aaron Jones is cleared, we might move Aaron Jones ahead of White. White is an RB2 that you settle for, but you aren't excited about. Sean Tucker, kind of in that Demario Douglas range of a flex if you need him, but hopefully you don't. I'm a little more excited about the wide receivers. Emeka Egbuka, last 2 games, a bit of a struggle, but he has 21 total targets in those games. I think you're going to see him be close to 10 targets in this game. That makes him a top 5 wide receiver for us. Tez Johnson, right in the Stephon Diggs range as a high-end upside wide receiver 3, that if he scores a touchdown is probably going to be a lot better than that. And then Cade Otton's kind of the security blanket for Baker Mayfield, especially when both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are out. I like Cade Otton a little more than Hunter Henry if you're searching for a low-end tight end one.
All right, let's switch gears to the 49ers here because we just got an update from Kyle Shanahan on their quarterback situation. They host the Rams this Sunday. Mac Jones will be starting again in place for Brock Purdy, who's dealing with that toe injury. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, we would like Purdy a little bit more than Mac Jones, but again, kind of like the Tampa situation, this is just business as usual as far as what we've done for the last month. You view Mac Jones as a high-end QB2. Christian McCaffrey is obviously one of the best players in fantasy. The one that's really interesting is George Kittle, because we're basically starting George Kittle at this point because of the name, not because of the game. Doesn't have more than 4 catches in any game this season. I don't even have him as high as the consensus at tight end 5 here. He's tight end 7 or 8 for me, depending on the format. And this is kind of like the last week where we just trust that because his name is George Kittle, it's going to be okay. If he struggles again, we're going to be having a conversation with him down in that Kate Otten area of the rankings, just because he has not been that good this year. It's a 32-year-old tight end coming off of a hamstring injury. Juwan Jennings, an interesting flex at the wide receiver position.
All right, let's look elsewhere for the Jags. Brian Thomas Jr. has been rolled out. We got Jacoby Myers, though, set to make his Jaguars debut, of course, after getting traded at the trade deadline. What can we expect from Myers?
It's always difficult when veteran wide receivers are traded midseason, especially when they don't know the offense. We've got a little better situation in Seattle more. We'll talk about that in a second. But Jacoby Myers has had a little less than a week in Jacksonville. The nice thing for him, Brian Thomas won't be there. Travis Hunter won't be there. I would view him as a low-end wide receiver 3. There's a potential that he comes in and they've just got a package ready for him, and he's the best wide receiver on Jacksonville this week. I would actually still prefer to start Parker Washington for at least 1 week. Neither of those guys top 30 wide receivers for me, though. Low-end wide receiver 3s.
All right, lastly, I want to get to Rashid Shaheed here, and his debut with the Seahawks reunites with his former Saints OC Clint Kubiak. Should we consider him a reliable starter, though, in our future lineups, Heath?
I'm not sure if I'd call him reliable, and I don't know how many reliable options we have at any position with all the injury that we've had this year. But what Shaheed is an extremely high upside wide receiver. Sam Darnold, averaging 9.6 yards per pass attempt, has been one of the best downfield passers in the NFL. Shaheed has blazing speed, and you mentioned it. He knows this offense already. He was in this offense and featured in this offense last year. Now, nobody in Seattle is going to be featured because Jackson Smith-Njigba exists, and the guy sees a 35% target share almost every week. So Shaheed's probably one of those guys that sees somewhere between 5 and 7 targets on a weekly basis. He has the potential to put up a boom 20-point fantasy week, maybe scoring 10-plus points on one play because of what he does with his speed and what Sam Darnold's done throwing the ball downfield. He also has a very low floor, though. So I would start him over a couple of guys I mentioned, Juwan Jennings and Jacoby Myers, but it's a boom-bust wide receiver 3 play, not somebody you just definitely have to put in your lineup.
Reliable, just a very loose word nowadays. Heath Cummings, always great to see the Seahawks host the Cardinals this upcoming Sunday, that 4 o'clock window. You can get more from Heath and company, all the fantasy football tips on the Fantasy Football Today podcast. Scan that QR code on your screen and watch and listen wherever you get your pods.